Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another edition of Live Canes here on CanesInSight. As always, I am Chris. There's the box that says that box says Bill. That's him up there in that larger box. At some point, Steve-O will join us. He's usually around there somewhere. Wanted to get it going early for you guys. I know it's 9:05 or whatever, but I mean, for us, you know the deal. That's a little bit early. To make sure we get, because a lot of stuff to talk about. Want to rattle it off. 96 commits for the class of 2026 over the past 2 weeks since we last saw you guys. Fresh, we need commits. I mean, we've been getting commits. It's not. We've been getting commits. I can guarantee you. Just maybe not some of the names that you guys have been looking for and waiting on, but don't worry. Night for Canes alum. Tell you something good. Well, then we talk about the guys that already committed. That's definitely some good news. B Harp, what's going on? CF Cane fan, welcome back. I was on a Navajo reservation in Arizona, out in the middle of the desert. So I would have loved to have done a show for you from out there, but internet was not at a premium, so I couldn't do that. Jason Johnson, what's going on? Down from 32,000 feet. I would like to know how. I'd like you to be more specific about that. If you're watching on the plane, that's great. That's a great way to spread the brand out there. CF Cane fans got a good question. I'll save that for later. Clemson's taking the DTs we want. Well, we got one, so we'll talk about that. And we'll get into it a little bit more. But before we get into all that stuff, Bill, how are we feeling tonight?
Big chillin'. What a kind of a roller coaster the last 2 weeks was, but like 6 commits in 6 or 7 days. And then it kind of came back down. Maybe some of those whales are trending elsewhere. We're getting sued by the University of Wisconsin, which that's one of the things I am passionate about is this whole Xavier Lucas situation. So yeah. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit.
We'll talk about it.
Put on my lawyer hat. Thank God I went to law school, so we're all good here.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about it. Bill, Bill can only argue with people on the internet for so long. We got to bring that to the real world. CF Cane fan, my dream of mine to go to a reservation. Hey, if you want to go out there and donate your time, they will take it because there are definitely people that need help out there. So if you're willing to put some effort in, there's definitely places that would be happy to have you. So don't worry about that. Just head on out to Arizona, New Mexico, Utah area. There's some space for you. But we'll talk about all that, talk about the commits. Obviously, some people are a little bit antsy because some of the bigger names haven't jumped in on board yet and things are trending elsewhere. But you know how modern college football recruiting goes. I mean, trending doesn't matter because everything can switch on a dime. We'll talk a little bit about that. Bill wants to make fun of Wisconsin a little bit, so we'll have to get into that too. A lot of stuff, a lot of good conversation points here for this week for us to chat about here on 3 Live Canes. Thank you guys for tuning in on Wednesday night. Talk some Miami football with us.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska.
He's a stud, that Brown, number 98.
Irvin's got it. Irvin's free.
Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, and he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in big game.
Going up for Thorpe, and it's intercepted near midfield. Sean Taylor's got another one.
Who else?
Us here on a Wednesday night, talking about some Miami football with you. Also, real quick, shout out to Bill for the last week posting all the countdowns on the CanesInSight Twitter account. You might have thought something was up because they were actually being posted early in the morning and not in the middle of the day randomly, with no apparent plan or reason their existence. It's because Bill was handling it, and Bill actually takes that role seriously, unlike myself, who has to be reminded 7 out of 10 times to post them. But good job by Bill. Do you have any trouble with it, Bill?
No, I prepared the night before. I had the tweet saved in the drafts, and then once morning hit, sometimes I was like about to post at like 6 in the morning. I'm like, no, got to calm down here, wait for the people to wake up. But an absolutely dominating run of Canes Countdown. So people enjoyed it. Best week ever that we had.
Yeah, it did say like you have X amount, like 6,000 more like views than normal because you're actually posting them early.
Yeah, I did a good mix of old school, new school. I was very, very proud of the efforts there.
So we'll see if I continue to forget. You just start doing it more consistently. It's very, very possible to pop up. It is your idea too, so.
I can't be the brains and the execution and everything.
It's true. It's true. It's very hard for you to handle. CF Cane fan, we'll be discussing a projected depth chart. We will in due time. I guess not that much time, but definitely when we get into August, it's going to be something that we'll talk about a lot. Once things kind of start to shake out and the guys really get back into the flow of things. But let's hit on some of these recruits because we did have a great run here for Miami over the past couple of weeks. 6 commits since we last saw you guys on June the 18th. And guys that focused on really 2 key positions, the front 7 and skill position players on the offensive side of the ball. So let's start with receivers because, there's a lot of people still worrying about like other receivers that might come in. The players, obviously a big fish out there that we've been talking about for quite a bit that we're trying to be optimistic about, even though things are kind of trending the other way. But let's talk about the additions we got. And we'll start with someone whose name kind of came up for the first time just a couple weeks ago, and right away, Vance Spafford, immediately made that commitment to Miami as soon as he seemingly got back into open space. But Spafford is a guy I know Steve-O was a big fan of, a guy that kind of burst onto the scene. And I don't know how to put this, but has a skill set that you may not have expected. There's tremendous speed, a guy that can go out there and do things that probably wouldn't have expected from him, but like a 4.35 in the 40 at a big camp. So Spafford, opportunity to come in and be a pretty big playmaker from the very start.
Yeah, he's flipped him from Georgia essentially. Comes from a powerhouse out in the West Coast in California and Mission Viejo. But think about Shannon Dawson's offense and what positions historically have thrived with that, and that's been slot receiver. So kind of a huge opportunity for him. Just an electric player. Even plays pretty strong for his size, like 5'11" 180. But kind of a weird recruitment. Has canceled his OV, said he was sick, and everyone kind of took that as, oh well, no way he comes. And then a few days later he pops commitment. Boom, we got him. So I think it's a terrific fit from a scheme perspective. But he also brings, some juice that, maybe if you look at the 24/7 profile pic, you may not think that, but he's gonna bring a little juice here.
He's as we've talked about it, an Isaiah Dunson terror, like a night terror kind of deal. But guy with great speed, great athleticism, can go pretty much anywhere. Like I think the fact that he has gone to 7-on-7s and shown out and come out to you play. You can make plays against some of these top Florida teams. I know Mission Viejo is a big time program out in California, but I think he proved he's legit when he played some of these Florida squads and showed that he is not to be trifled with. And Steve-O loves him. I know we bring in the speed to the table. We talked a couple weeks ago about, hey, if we get Spafford, I forgot the other name guy we got, and then obviously another big fish. Is that going to be good enough? And like we all agree, this would be a tremendous group of 3 receivers. If that's the number we're looking at. So definitely was a great first domino to fall at the receiver position. And a guy that just he's going to come in and be able to make plays. Because it's a guy who's made plays consistently in his career out for a big-time program. So it's going to continue on. And that wasn't the only guy that, left their previous commitment and decided to come on with the University of Miami because Teron Evans made a similar decision a couple days after. Exactly what it was. Spafford was on the 23rd, and Evans was on the 25th. Yeah, 2 days later, Teron Evans makes a summer call, and now he's very different kind of receiver. This guy 6'3", 6'4", 200 pounds, kind of profiles a different way, coming from the other side of the country. But another guy that as soon as he broke his previous commitment, it was like, all right, Teron Evans, you're next up, and turns out he was.
Yep, and kind of this follows the pattern, I think, of kind of what Mario's doing, from a recruiting standpoint, is get kind of get the guys in early and then kind of go big whale hunting. But a former Tennessee commit, so Heupel in that offense, he knows what he's doing with receivers. So totally different body type than Spafford. Spafford kind of smaller, short, almost built like a running back. But Evans is, your taller, bigger, receiver at what's he listed at 6'3" and a half, a little over 200 pounds. So totally different players, but good compliments to each other, and you kind of see how they're trying to diversify, that wide receiver skill set.
And you need a bunch of different guys in different positions who can play different positions inside, outside. Even with like the way the game is developing now, where your big time players, can play from the slot more often than not. Guys with bigger, better size, like your Jamar Chases of the world, that kind of have that running back build, can go inside, outside, or really kill you from the slot. A guy like Teron Evans is that classic outside receiver. We had a couple of different guys over the past couple of years we really relied on. And I think this year coming up, even losing some guys like a Horton, like I think a lot of people expected him to be that big outside receiver we really relied on. Evans has that same kind of profile, a guy that can. And Horton was a Tennessee. He wasn't a Tennessee commit, but he was from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Was he committed somewhere else before he switched to us? No,
I don't believe so.
But that's kind of the same profile that you're looking at from this team. The guy that could easily be an SEC receiver at this size, a guy that can go there and be physical and make plays. Guy that can get downfield, not afraid to go up and get the ball and be with physicality. A great combination of receivers. And, obviously, like you want to be able to add another big-time player from the list. But I know that Miami has kind of fallen out of favor with at least one major target. But do you think there's still an opportunity out there to pull in a big fish at the receiver position, Bill?
Yeah, I mean it's the NIL era, so anything's possible. So you have Tristan Keys out there, Calvin Russell's kind of doing all kinds of crazy stuff with top threes, and they're switching every day, and that one doesn't feel good. But Keys is a guy that has continually showing up on campus, doing visits. So that's gonna go another 5.5 months or so to the finish line. So. Again, NIL talks, it's a different era just because you're maybe falling behind 1 week, that could change on a dime if you maybe make a better offer. And, we've seen, Miami do that in the past. We've also seen teams do that to Miami in the past. So, whale hunting, but, Spafford and then Evans, is a good start. I actually was about to shave, but my wife told me no, surprisingly, Johnny Lagoon. But I think just before Steele gets in, and he yells at me for saying this, but our receivers, they were super productive last year, but they weren't anything special from a physicality standpoint, from like a traits-based standpoint. We saw what X ran. We know he was hurt. No one got drafted. Horton transferred out. But I think once we kind of get some more guys in with, I doubt that, Johnny Lagoon. But I think once we kind of elevate the athletic profile, I think we're really going to see this offense look a little bit different than kind of what we've been used to, because we haven't had any real dudes on the outside at receiver. And dudes from a physical standpoint, not from a production standpoint. We know what X was, one of the best to suit him up for Miami. But, Spafford's going to bring a little bit different element than what we've seen.
Which you need, honestly. You need that physicality from position. You need guys that have elite game-breaking speed that, immediately transfer to be pros down the line. Because it provides a different element. You can't have a guy like Cam every year who can elevate, like you said, we had guys that we were hoping would reach the next level, but I would say a lot of it was Cam's ability rising the tide of all receivers more than it was the receivers really stepping up for Cam. Cam, I think, was just so good that it was impossible for guys to play like at anything but a higher level because of it. And he was elevating the guys around you. And like he gave opportunities. And one of the guys that he helped elevate and who really put it together for the first time in a complete way was Elijah Arroyo. Now we're not going to have the same exact looking position group as next year. At the tight end position, we'll have some guys, but a guy who looks like he could be that Arroyo mold is another one of our commits over the past couple of days, and that was Israel Briggs, the tight end, really a jumbo receiver so far in his career, but a guy that has played the position at a high level. Definitely looks like a major player. Heading forward, and he's right now at as we speak our second highest rated recruit overall.
Let's say Israel Briggs is our second highest.
Yeah, he's our second. It's Cantwell the
No.
Briggs.
Not on the composites. I have a different one up, but yeah, kind of similar to kind of Arroyo coming out. Maybe a little bit lighter, but again, we've seen what kind of these flex tight ends can do. In this offense, once you get somebody there, with an athletic profile, that they can do damage, right? Bring what's probably going to be a real balanced offense going forward. With Cam Ward, you definitely wanted to kind of air that out as much as possible, even though the run game was pretty efficient. But again, once he gets in weight room, gets into that 225, 230 range, that's going to be your matchup nightmare type guy. Whether you're put him in line, flexing him out, moving him around a little bit, kind of what you did with Arroyo, putting him in motion, faking that wide receiver screen, putting him on a wheel route. You could do a lot with him, but you just got to get that body right and adjust it to the college game. But you see he's works in space very well, splits that defense, and is able to outrun everybody. So kind of a name that came out of nowhere too. But hey, big pickup.
For sure. And Miami's produced tight ends. Like there's you can't go out there and say Miami hasn't been able to put guys in the league at that position. And I'm not talking about the old days, even like in recent years. And the success of a guy like Arroyo obviously going to make an impact. And talking about a guy here who in Briggs can do a lot of other things. Like he is a good athlete. He's not just a guy who's big and fast. He is a very good athlete. Like he plays the receiver position in these high school tapes like a true receiver, not just a guy who's just bigger and stronger than everybody. He pushes him out of the way. Like he plays it like look at that play he just did, like the quick little inside screening to the house, because he has the ability to do things over the middle of the field, cut, make adjustments, run routes. So that's going to make him an especially dangerous player, because that over the middle of the field, when you mix in guys like a Spafford out of the slot and those things, I mean, that's a real opportunity for us to do some damage. Maybe like in terms of all the guys we've gotten this year, like he's a guy that right outside of a Cantwell, because he's just is what he is, but a guy that I could easily see his path to playing a lot of ball in the next 2 years. Like I know exactly how he's going to fit into this thing within the next two. And I think after he, maybe kind of gets used to things, gets his body right next year, second year out of the gate, like he's going to be out there making plays for sure for this Miami offense.
Yeah, another California kid too, starting to maybe get a pipeline going out there.
We're in a national recruiting era. Like the state of Miami, it grew, and you want to get like all over the place. We talked about it with the linemen. That, I mean, if anything, like the state of Miami is going to make the most impact with offensive linemen, because they're going to find guys all around the state of Florida that they like. Then they're going to like the guys that they can develop, because they can pick any guys from anywhere and they can find a way to develop. They have the raw skill. And then they're going to get the big fish from outside. You're going to try to get your skills and DBs from the state of Miami. I think other than that, they're going everywhere. They're going to go everywhere they can to find talent. Which, I mean, that's what we saw from these 6 commits, right? I mean, we got California, Florida, Arkansas, Orlando, North Carolina. That's it. So, getting guys from all over the place. Which, fine. Wherever you can get talent, go get talent.
I mean, it's not like we keep the best of the best from South Florida home, too. None of the Florida schools have. Once Calvin Russell, commits wherever, Michigan, Oregon, who knows? Again, that's just going to be another local miss, but you can make that up by going to Missouri, getting the number 1 player in the country.
Yeah. See what we can pull together there. But, quick conversation happened in the chat. I want to make sure I don't miss it. Johnny Lagoon, do you think the offense this year is going to be more run focused? You have good O-line, question marks for quarterback and receiver. And then there was a little back and forth. 94, Canes thinks Beck's going to pan out better than expectations. Young receivers will show the skill. Johnny Lagoon said he watched the UF and Kentucky games last year. Beck wasn't bad. I know the response, and I think some of the response there. See how the receivers are. We have, in terms of the skills and some guys about the offensive line and running backs and back and forth there. I feel like you can't look at Beck last year with that Georgia team and then you could criticize, but you can't condemn. Like, oh, he's not going to be good because of how this team looked last year, how he looked last year. Because that Georgia team, I know they won games, but no one was looking at that offense and saying, oh my gosh, this offense. The receivers were bad. The offensive line, 8 guys drafted, they were bad. Running backs were bad. Like, the offense as a whole looked like a mess, like a total mess, top to bottom. So Beck had some good games, some ups and downs, but we've seen Beck be a good quarterback. It's not like he's been bad his whole career. Like, we've seen him play at a high level. We've seen him carry Georgia to some wins. We've seen him do his job. So I mean, he's a pro that we're getting for a year of college ball. So I'm not terribly worried. And with the receivers, like CJ Daniels has proven himself. It's just last year he was in a position where like ball was spread around a lot. He didn't make a ton of plays, but if he was coming out of Liberty. Like if this was his Liberty year was last year, I think everyone would be jacked up about as him as a number one, you know? Malachi Tony, like, yeah, he hasn't done it yet because he just got here, but seems like he's causing a lot of buzz, and JoJo's, you know? So I know the latter two haven't done it, but I'm feeling pretty good.
But this offense, you know, so I think some of the commentary out there makes it seem like this offense isn't going to be able to be run in its entirety because Beck is going to hold it back in some form. But no, it's not like that. It's not like where, you know, Emory gets put in, you're scared to throw the ball forward in any type of way. So the offense is the full playbook's going to be out there, right? You know, Beck's a veteran college quarterback. It would not be a surprise if he ended up a first round pick. But it also maybe wouldn't be surprising if he, you know, was a mid to late round pick as well. But I think we'll run the ball more, but that passing game still is going to be prevalent. I think it's going to be a much more, you know, balanced approach. But it's not like you can't put the game on Beck's shoulders to go win it, right? I think the only thing that will, you know, potentially hamper it is if, you know, those interceptions. Yeah, you saw he had a couple like 30+ interception games. If that's what's going on, then yeah, we're not going to be doing much next year. But I think Dawson's scheme's a little bit or much more quarterback friendly than whatever the hell was going on at Georgia, especially when they had all the issues that they had with the drops, you know, the offensive line not producing, even though they had a bunch of NFL guys. So that's, you know, the big question for this team as a whole is, you know, who is Carson Beck? If he is 2023 Carson Beck, yeah, we're winning 10 games. If he's not, you know, maybe we're, you know, a little less, 8-9 wins.
I think in an age where like we don't really know much about quarterbacks across the country, you know, like you like to think, you know, but like who do we know is in that upper echelon of quarterback? Like across the country, you know, and like this is the question. Like, would you lose Cam? Devastating, 100%. The receiving losses outside of X, and I know Arroyo played great, but like outside of those two, like Jacoby George, like this is our moment to say it. All right, all right. Like, so losing losing Sam Brown, losing Horton. I know he was stepping up, but. You know, guys can step into that. Guys can be them, right? They can be those guys. The only guy you can't immediately replace is X, just because of what he was. But you do have guys that have high potential, and we'll see how it happens. And to your point about 9-10 wins, like, go. What are you gonna say?
No, the receiver room is a legitimate concern. You know,
it's a concern with high potential. It's not a concern where like, oh man, these guys kind of stink. You know, like these guys.
It's unproven. It's unproven.
Like we knew what our receiver room was last year. We knew exactly what to expect from every guy, and every guy played at the exact level we thought, right? Nobody was way better than we expected. Nobody was way worse. They just were what we thought what they were. Horton was fine. Jacoby was Jacoby. X was great again. But, like, they just were what they were. So, like, we're going into this year. We're like, oh, yeah, they're unproven to a degree. But at the same time, this group has way more potential than the guys we rolled out last year.
Oh,
Way more
yeah.
potential. This group could be a million times better than what we rolled out last year. Because the only guy last year that I absolutely trusted was X. You know what I mean? So, yes, unproven, but could be something great. I don't know. And that's how college football is. You got to replace guys. So I'm not going to be broken up about it. And then the 9-10 wins, and I know that was a question that was out there before. Like, think about the quarterbacks across the country. Like, how many quarterbacks across the country can we say, oh man, this guy is absolutely better than Carson Beck? Like, Aller at times was a horror show. At times really good. At times it was a horror show. Nussmeier at times was really bad.
Lenore Sellers
is good, but maybe I could put Sellers above him because Sellers had and Sellers can run, so there's always that aspect of it. Arch we've never seen. Mendoza,
Sam Levitt.
Yeah, Levitt. I mean, that's had a good run there, but is Levitt better than Carson Beck? Do we know that? There's not a lot of guys that we're like, oh yeah, better. Oh, for Caden Salter, we don't know what the hell it's going to look like in Colorado now. Like there's a lot of guys this is the year of quarterbacks that you're really looking out there like I have no idea how this is going to. Like Mendoza, we probably could have had Mendoza if we wanted him. We let him go to Indiana. What was the demand like for Mendoza if he picked Indiana? Their last quarterback got he snuck into the 7th round because
this is probably the first year
Klubnik,
where
fine. Sawyer Robertson, I don't know that he's better. Mateer, I don't know Mateer's better.
You could probably have a list of maybe 12 quarterbacks, and however you arrange them now, it could be totally different in 4 months, 5 months when we're talking about this again. But there is absolutely concerns from the injury and then just the play last year. But I would wager on the college, the experience. We know that experience matters in college. That's why I would be higher on Klubnik and Beck versus kind of the Lagways of the world or small sample size. I mean, there's concerns about, I think, probably every quarterback out there. I don't think there's any proven ones. Even Nussmeier had some issues last year.
Yeah, not elite. He would have been gone. He wouldn't have been back at LSU if that went the way he wanted it to go, because he would have been a top 15 pick.
I mean, even Lagway, he had elite moments, and then he also had just disastrous moments.
And he's looking at an offense that you're like, he might clean up interceptions, but is that offense going to be good? Probably not.
I hope not.
Probably not. So
I think we'll look more like. I mean, we'll still have air raid principles, but I think we'll see a lot more. Fletcher, Lyle, ground and pound, and then if especially early in the year, as the JoJos of the world kind of ease into it a little bit more. I kind of wish we had maybe a game or two before Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But then again,
Notre Dame's also
first year quarterback.
First-year quarterback. A lot of these teams this team. I think that's see where he shakes out when he's healthy. It's fair, but not everybody went into a great situation. Like Mateer played really well last year. He's going to a place in Oklahoma where I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know how it's going to go at all. Mensa, I think, is super overrated. Jackson Arnold was terrible last year. Terrible. I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot of moving pieces out there. I don't know. Everybody misses Steve. He's around. He's probably at the field. We'll find him. But anyway, and TBD. Where's TBD?
He's not still at Wisconsin, is he?
I think he left, right? I think he left.
Oh, he went to SMU.
Oh, he had to back up the other dude. Who also, Jennings, who's also not that great. Not that's you watch him play in some games, you're like, nah. Anyway, I do like the kid from Ole Miss. I forget his name, but the kid who's going to start at Ole Miss.
Oh, was he a USC transfer?
I don't know.
Let's see here. The name's on the top of my Austin Simmons.
Simmons. I like him. I think he could be really good.
Where did he come from?
I don't remember. Everybody transfers, so it's like he's from Florida. He's from South Florida. He's from Miami.
Oh, no, he flipped from Florida. He was never actually enrolled there.
Okay, yeah. But he's a good player. So I could see him like being one of those like sneaky high draft picks, but we'll see.
So system's important too. Lane Kiffin's going to get a lot out of that quarterback.
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. But I mean, obviously, like the offense has question marks, and we'll see. But defensively, that's where we could have 50 question marks on the defensive side of the ball, and we'll still be better than we were last year because that's how horrendous that was. That was how horrendous that was last year. But we'll see how it shakes out. But we did continue to build some things on the defensive side of the ball, and one of the things that we've now apparently gained a great skill at is stealing linebackers from Rutgers, because we talked a lot about it a couple weeks ago, but just like many of us expected, and we're kind of looking for when we first talked about it, but we've taken Justin Edwards from Rutgers. He's an Orlando kid from Edgewater, pulling him in to play linebacker for us instead, and this is coming on the heels, obviously, of Monterey decided to come over here and potentially be our top linebacker. We'll see how it shakes out. But what are your thoughts on Edwards here before we jump over to the other guys we haven't talked so much about?
Yeah, there's some good discussion on the board when he first committed, because like the testing numbers is really good for Edwards, but some thought that the film was or the highlights were maybe a little lackluster from a physicality standpoint, but again, Heatherman's going to bring in guys that he thinks fits. He is the linebacker guy, so I think we give him kind of the freedom right before we even kind of start to judge that. But I do like the athletic profile. I've complained a lot on this show about linebackers and how we're just not bringing in kind of the right guys. They're either fatally flawed from a IQ standpoint or from a physicality or physical trait standpoint, where we've either just been slow or small. So I think we're going to start to see a little bit of that shift. But again, I always like I was talking with Evans and Heupel knows receivers, he knows offense. Shiano knows linebackers. So I'll kind of side with that for now. But you pair him with Jordan Campbell, maybe try and get one or two more guys, but I do like what we're doing at linebacker so far this cycle.
Mm-hmm. And then you got a guy in Ashari Charles who is kind of that small edge, stand up, come off the defensive end and spots kind of guy. Really like a guy you like as a pass rusher. I'll throw his highlights up because he's, like I said, he's someone that we haven't talked about a ton so far, but the opportunity to go out and get him definitely. Here, where is he? There he is. Adds a lot to, and this is kind of the profile, a lot of the edges that we pulled in the past couple of years, where a guy who maybe isn't the 6'5", 6'6" traditional like edge rusher, but a guy that can come out and do the things he needs to do, with that great athletic profile. But he plays a tough game, plays a strong game, and just his versatility, I think, makes him as intriguing an option long term. Stand up, put his hand down, be a pass rusher, line up, be an athlete in the back set, in the front seven. So I like this get just because of the chess piece mentality of kind of where he fits in.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Taylor's been, pretty much an animal on the trail, since he's been here. We're going to see how, that develops going forward. Can he start, ripping off some first rounders? But 6'2", 230, you kind of see, what he grows. Does he become, that 6'3", 250 range? Does he stay a little bit, on the smaller side? But Venice, really, really good program. Constantly every time state title time rolls around, I feel like they're always, in the finals or winning it or close. So, I think he's probably going to come in, well coached. He's got the physical part of it down, but he is coming into, hopefully what will be a loaded edge room. So, he'll have some time to develop before we need to rely on him. But, he is kind of built like almost in that, Ruben Bain type, body as of right now, at least. We'll see how he develops, but gotta keep stacking chips on the defensive line. Gotta bring in those blue chippers.
Which, there's no more important position, I think, to stack blue chippers than it is on the edge, on the D line, because that's where, you hope guys work out. When guys work out that were high level prospects there, they're top 10 picks. So the fact that this guy has that like mentality, has that I guess the development of what we've seen so far in his game and how it's like taken off for the past year and like the potential he has as an athletic specimen. I'm excited to see it because his junior tape is about as good as anyone we've pulled in so far this year, if not better than everyone, maybe outside of Cantwell. So if he can even raise his game to the higher level, he's one of those, he's going to be one of our top 5 or 6 recruits in this class. And to have it be an edge guy, love to see it. Though again, who knows where this versatility might take him? We've seen other guys that were high-level edges, do more stand-up and be more versatile that last year once they understand the game a little bit better. So we'll see how it goes. Like to see it, though. Definitely a guy that to keep an eye on for the future. And then the last commit we got was, it was kind of a weird back and forth because there was some disappointment that Miami wasn't able to pull in other defensive tackles that we were talking a lot about, or at least like that's where the rumors are pushed aside. But Anthony Kennedy, a guy that we have not talked about as much, but a guy who generally is a pretty high profile when it comes to his national recruitment. Anthony Kennedy, a humongous defensive tackle that fits that. You hear it all the time. We need a nose. We need a big dude. We need like a run stopper or run plugger in the middle. And Anthony Kennedy, coming from Little Rock, Arkansas, definitely fits that mold for sure. So what are your thoughts on Kennedy?
It's about time we brought in some beef, going back to the old beef and cheeks days. If you're an OG for listening to us over the years, but it's a body type that we just really haven't had. I know Moten's kind of put on weight since he's been here. He's started to get up there, but kind of just a true war daddy body type. To put it in the middle and kind of complement some of that. Athletic dudes, right? The Hayden Lowe's, the Marquise Lightfoots, those type of guys. This is kind of the complement to that. You put in a 330, 340 pounder that isn't sloppy, right? He's not Desmond Watson out there. That could eat up space, eat up double teams, and free up some of those playmakers to wreak havoc in the backfield. So I was very happy we got this guy. Now there's some whales out there that we're still probably going to go after, but him, Tyson Bacon, again, one tech, 3 tech, good compliments to each other. Great pickup for July. Now you go whale hunting.
Very fair point from Crib right here. Very, very fair point. But yeah, you bring in, I think it's kind of the same as a receiver position, right? You've created a solid base for your defensive tackle group as you did for your receiver group. I mean, you could say even for your linebacker group, where you're looking, okay, now who else can we add? It's kind of the opposite of what we did at the offensive line spot where, we got the huge fish and now we can continue to just pull in whatever guys that we look at that we like the potential of. But now you get your whales going, and a lot of those whales have not made a final decision yet. So I know that things are kind of trending in different directions and people get nervous about that, but like you said before, Bill, like when money's on the table, like decisions change quickly. Like this is not the age of relationships and making a lot of determining factors for high level prospects. They'll like the coaches, but they love the money. So you never know how things can change over the course of time. And we're still a long way away. We're still 3 months away? No. 4.5 months away. Right at the very start of December, or do they move it up again?
I don't even know when it is anymore. But with rev share coming, this is kind of the last hurrah for some of these big NIL contracts. We really don't know what the future holds with some law firm deciding what's right, what's not. We've gone down that rabbit hole, but if let's say you allocated a bunch of money to go after 4 whales, you miss 3 of them. You have all that extra money. Maybe you make a big offer elsewhere to get one. Right. So I think there's going to be a lot more, ebbs and flows as we go through this. A commitment, even the guys that committed to us, those commitments mean nothing here. In July, we're going to have to fight to hold them. Right. And if some of those other guys commit elsewhere, they're going to have to fight to keep them, from us as well as probably every other school in the country.
Right. So it's a battle. It will always be a battle. It will be a battle until the dying days of college football. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully Bill shaves handlebars around then. Is that a possibility, Bill?
I want to do it, but we'll see. I'm in negotiations right now.
Or you'd have to do it for like a show and just do it right before the show. Go to your attic or whatever, like basement or whatever your wife sends you to do the show, and then just pop up and like, hey, what do you think? And then she'll make you shave it again.
Today was probably the day to do it because I'm off of work till Monday. So even if I look crazy, it would at least probably half grow back before then. But we'll see.
By the way,
the ladies love it. So
Hall of Fame game is on the 31st. Really?
Yep.
Jeez, that's
like the Colts and somebody. I think I saw a graphic that there's football this month. I was like, what? No way! And then I was like, oh shit, yep.
That's absurdly early with a short preseason. Because there's still 4 weeks with that. That's the 4th week, right? And then there's a week off, a bye week, and then whatever. Who knows? But we are speaking of negotiations. There is one more thing I want to hit on here, and that is something that near and dear to our hearts, and that's litigation involving the University of Miami and the Wisconsin Badgers football program. It's been a while. I know it kind of popped up a decent amount of time ago, but notice how you haven't really heard much about it since the initial frenzy. Do you know why you haven't heard a lot about it? Bill, do you know why?
It's complete and utter malarkey.
Because it's, number one, doo-doo, and number 2, it doesn't mean anything. Like we're setting a precedent here. Of what? Of what? What's Miami's got them. They got hit by the courts again. What's going to happen what's a judge going to say? Hey, don't do that. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Sure.
I actually went through some of the complaint from that. And it's a lot of just, their main case for saying that Miami interfered in that contract as a family member told on them,
stupid.
And they didn't even all this is going to come out, but the contract wasn't released yet. And they're not even suing or going after the person that breached this alleged contract that really wasn't a contract. So I was listening to Bruce Feldman's podcast. He had the Athletics legal guy or whatever, and he basically, without saying it's a bunch of doo-doo malarkey, he said that Miami's probably going to win this one fairly easily. First step is probably getting it to federal court, getting it out of Wisconsin, because you just never know, what kind of judge you're going to get, and unfortunately that's much bigger than football, but the Big Ten backed it, but they just want that rev share contract that they had a bunch of athletes sign. They want someone in the court system to say, yes, this is totally 100% legitimate. And it's not. And it's still not even in effect yet, this whole kind of deal. So I think at some point we'll probably just get a random message on Twitter. Someone will be like, oh, we got case dismissed, or, settled out of court for nothing. There's not even damages because no money was ever given. It's just crazy.
Yeah, they officially, they are asking for an apology from Miami. It's the stupidest thing. The stupidest thing I've ever seen. And the idea that some lawyer's going to make $80,000 off of this thing, for billable hours, that's the one thing I always love to see on Reddit is like the only group of people that have succeeded in this era of college football expansion is the lawyers and their billable hours, because it's ridiculous.
And Wisconsin should be saving their money for buying out, Luke Fickell's contract. But it's kind of crazy. Just even the past like 5 years, like Wisconsin was very likable, right? Because they, would upset Ohio State. They'd kind of they're a good program, a little bit different with the way they played, kind of give some of those traditional blue bloods a power. Oregon was like a fun team for a little bit, uniforms, Chip Kelly's offense. And now like those are the two of the most like hated, in terms of Miami's eyes, especially now with Wisconsin and, the whole Cristobal Oregon thing. But that whole, even when it came out, it was like, the Wisconsin fans didn't jump in the mentions like I thought they were about to, because I was battling for like 4 days when he first transferred. So I think a lot of people just realize like nothing's going to happen to it. Probably like worst case, it probably gets settled. Maybe Miami pays their lawyer bill or whatever. I don't know, but it's not going to impact anything. Big picture rev share, I don't think so. Everything I've read, everybody smarter than me that's talked about it has pretty much said the same thing. So here we are.
It's going to go down as one of the more ridiculous aspects of this whole thing. The fact that it was a big deal at first, the fact that they didn't put him in the portal, the fact that they signed this illegal contract and then like went at it when it wasn't even like allowed to be signed yet. And then they're fighting to the death to say like, no, it's fine when it doesn't happen. The fact that they sued Miami for an apology for us to admit wrongdoing without any like monetary damages. It's like the stupidest, absolute dumbest thing. And then like people love to dunk on stuff on the internet. So you'll see social media like, oh yeah, get them. And then they'll reference like facts from 40 years ago, but it's like the stupidest stuff.
And one of the because it's the tortious interference. Like they have to prove that Miami knew that that Xavier Lucas signed this super secret contract that wasn't released and no one knew about it. And that's where like, some random aunt or uncle was like, yeah, Miami tampered, and like Wisconsin's like, yeah, we're gonna sue now. So should be interesting if it ever even gets to discovery, just to kind of see what's out there. So we'll kind of I would love to kind of see that rev share contract that's specifically that Wisconsin had him signed.
The inevitability is that as soon as this contract gets to the courts, it's going to get rejected too. It's going to get rejected too, because without collective bargaining, none of this stuff is going to work. Nothing is going to click. Nothing is going to stick. Nothing's going to happen. We're going to be having next year. We're going to talk about the draft, the college football draft. Like it's something. It's the dumbest. We're in the dumbest era of college sports that's ever existed. It's a try. I couldn't imagine being like a little kid, like 11 years old, and like you're a fan of a team, and then like you got to think about like your conference changes, like stupid stuff, like how much, and then you're asking your dad like, oh, did we get this player? Like no, son, he got paid another extra $10 million by USC. Like, oh, okay.
I mean, if we like were maybe like 10, 12 years old now, like would college football be like? Would it be a turnoff? Like, we were hooked at an early age. Like, we're not going anywhere. This is who we are.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't feel at all like it did when maybe because I'm older and it just is what it is. But I mean, it doesn't feel like it did 30 years ago when we were little kids and we're like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I love this.
Yeah. Miami was also winning back then too, so
fair point. We wouldn't care at all. Like, whatever, pay them all for winning natties. But yeah, we'll see. You never know. Things change. Things change in a blink of an eye in college football. So that's as with recruiting. But that'll do it for us. We'll get out of here. Thank you guys for tuning into the show. We appreciate you again. Sorry we were missing it last week, but I was out in the middle of nowhere, like I said, and we'll be here. I think for the most part, the next couple of weeks, I don't know what days we might miss here or there, but before we get back into full-on preseason, ready to roll mode, it appears to be another off season where we did not do an all-time Miami draft, but I'm going to try. I know it's 4 years in a row, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to work it out. Even if we have to recruit some people from the chat to do this thing, I'm going to try to figure out a day to do. I might just announce a day and like, okay, we're doing it this day. So probably not.
Not happening.
Probably not, but we'll see. If anybody in the chat wants to do it, you just let me know. We'll work it out. Oh wait, CF Kane fans question. Hold on. Oh, Johnny Lagoon wants to do it. All right, Bill, write Johnny Lagoon down. You're not writing it down, but Johnny, he didn't write.
I did. It's right here. Look.
You did not write his name down. You made like a stupid. Yeah, it all disappeared. But hold on, CF Kane's fans. I have it start. CF Kane. No, we're not gonna let that go. Here we go. Yeah, well, this will be our final thoughts for the people, Bill. Your final thoughts of people. Who is your top? Oh, what could have been if not player? He thinks of Amon, Jeff Thomas, Nkosi. What could have been player if not for
Amon's a good one. I'll go with Kyle Wright with the ridiculous when he had like 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Because that was kind of the beginning of the end, right? You know, we won Natty, we went to the Brock Berlin, had some good years, and then it just kind of there. He could have bridged that gap, maybe if we had a competent coaching staff.
On that note, I was gonna go Brock Berlin. If we would have kept that wide open offense when we scored like 86 points in 20 minutes against Florida, like if we would have kept that wide open, like, hey, open it up, like let this guy get in the shotgun, see everything. Like Brock Berlin in today's game would have been a tremendous quarterback, because nowadays we allow guys to play like that. But back then they were like, no, get back under center, get back in this pro style, do it the way we're supposed to. But that wasn't his game. That wasn't the way he played. But if they would have let him do that, like 03, we had a defense that if you go through the guys that we had on that defense in 03, like you can't lose with those guys. You had Antrell, you had Mo, Sean, Vilma, DJ, Vince. You had all these guys that were just killers, and we lost with that group to Tennessee and VTech in games that we should have never lost. If you would have just let them play, and Roscoe, we lost to Roscoe.
So somewhere Steve-O's ears just perked up.
Roscoe, but like that 03 team, we should have been a hell of a lot better. Jermaine Grace. Johnny Lagoon said Jermaine Grace and AQM. How about Chicolo? If we didn't tell Chicolo to gain 75 pounds.
Chicolo, he crossed my mind. But AQM, Jersey kid, is a good one. And then Jermaine Grace with, whatever happened with that. Yeah.
Who else we got? Someone just popped in that. Ray could have been if we would have like moved him to linebacker. I mean, it's like, I know it's James Williams, kind of the same conversation, right? Ray and James Williams. If we would have just said, "Hey, you guys are linebackers, just play linebacker," I think that they're both. And then you got to the NFL, linebackers, like immediately linebackers.
I have a good one, but it's not a player. Like, what if Butch didn't leave?
I mean, what if Butch didn't leave? What if Jimmy didn't leave? What if Schnelly didn't leave? Like, what if they all didn't leave? Except for Erickson, he was about ready to roll. Yeah, a lot of that, a lot. Rashard Smith, yeah. If we would have played Rashard, it's a good one. What if we would have played Rashard at running back? CF Kane fan, Bandy and D. Lewis. D. Lewis, do you mean? You mean Malcolm? I mean, I would think maybe Malcolm Lewis, you could say. Yeah, not Damian Lewis. He had a great career.
Injuries.
Malik Young. What could have been? What if we hired Leach and implemented the air raid? We would have been doing damage because we would have been putting that ball. People would have been putting up numbers. No worries, yeah. Who else? What if Gordon tear his knee up 75 times? What he could have been? That would have been a crazy 0-2.
What what if Willis doesn't get destroyed?
What if we would have played Gore in the title game and not Jared Payton? What if Gore was ready to go and we just rolled him out there for that? What if, I mean, he was probably healthy. That's something we've talked about like 7 times over the course of this show. It just gets brought up randomly. What if we got Teddy Bridgewater? What if Stephen Morris didn't have 4 offensive coordinators in 5 years or whatever it was, 3 and 4 years? What if Stephen Morris and Jed Fish got 1 more year together? Coley picked Dalvin instead of Yerby. What if Golden fires D'Onofrio?
Probably tearing up the YMCA. I don't know. Or the Boys and Girls Club, wherever he ended up after.
Good one.
But I mean, that's an interesting one because, Golden brought in talent. It just wasn't being utilized correctly.
Yeah.
So we'll see there.
All right. That's a good group. It's a good group of questions. That's good. That's a good question. A lot of names that pop through your head. And we're gonna be going to sleep tonight. And then
a few is gonna pop up in my head.
Oh, is he D'Onofrio? Look at that. Kaya senior year. Yep, that would have been a good one. What if was it Ryan Williams that was here for Kaya's freshman year? Ryan Williams was going to start? Or was Ryan Williams going to start after? I'm can't place Ryan Williams, but Ryan Williams was supposed to start, transfer from Memphis, and then he got hurt, and someone else had to start. I think it was for.
Did that?
When was it? But there was I remember Ryan Williams got hurt when he was supposed to start, and then someone unexpectedly started.
Those years just kind of blend together with.
Yeah, but I remember there was something with him. Damn, I can't think of it. Or whatever. I don't need to look. I don't need to go this far into my Ryan Williams research right now.
Johnny Lagoon's comment: what if we actually kept Amari Cooper home? Does that stop the Bama South Florida pipeline? Does that change? Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, all those guys.
Yeah, maybe it would start at all of them. Sam Bruce, Ray Lewis, they're third, 2 guys that obviously had a lot of stuff outside. I don't know. There's a lot of what ifs. So we'll go home. We'll go home. We'll go to sleep tonight and think of about 50 more. We'll start the show next time with 100 more of these things. But that'll do it for us. Bill, is that a good final thoughts of the people? Or you have any more you want to say?
Yeah, just happy birthday, America. Enjoy the holiday weekend. Woo! I thought you were about to wave an American flag. I think that would have been perfect timing.
No, this is my Gatorade bottle. Yeah, everyone enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Be safe out there. Don't do anything too silly. Bag it up. What you been bagging up? Just waiting to bring that negativity way at the end of it. No, I'm just kidding. Talking about America here, bagging up. I have the time for that.
Hey, we're closing in on season predictions, though. So
rewatch. Oh, there you go. Bag it. I got you. It was old Johnny's birthday the other day, boys. Hey, Johnny, congratulations. Happy birthday. Good job. Good job. You survived, I guess. You made it. Good work. But that'll do it for us. Thank you guys for watching the show. Happy birthday to America and Johnny. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. We'll see you again next week right here at the same time, same place. Old CanesInSight. What if we hired Hartline after he retired from the Dolphins? That's a good one. It was right there. And who the hell wants to go back to Ohio? Johnny Lagoon. Before all-time draft, Johnny. You start getting your board ready. And Bill stops being negative about it. We'll get this thing going. And I'll spring it on Steve-O randomly. He'll just draft Roscoe first overall. Doesn't matter. All right. But that'll do it for us, guys. Thank you guys so much. You all have a good weekend, too. Hopefully we get some more names for next week. Hopefully July 4th weekend makes some people want to be Hurricanes. I mean, certainly we'll take it, especially if 1 or 2 of them are the big fishes we're talking about. So for Bill, Steve-O, I'm Chris. Thank you guys for watching the show. We'll see you again next week right here on 3 Live Canes.
This is for the national championship for Nebraska. stud. That's Brown, number 98.
Urban's got it. Urban's free. Slips to the outside, tries to stiff arm, and he couldn't get by Ray Lewis.
Big time players. Step up in the big game.